Hey everyone! Welcome back to a new r/malicious compliance video. I hope you enjoy it. The first story is called The Landlord Said No. For a long time I was working at a well-respected and expensive consulting business who was renting an office. They had spent good money installing the air condition and making the reception area pretty decent. And also other works like interior walls, shelving, high quality decor and so on. When the tenant company wanted to move out, the contract said they had to restore the building back as it was. But they asked the landlord to allow them to walk away and not return the building back to the more basic shell it had been. This would have meant leaving the air condition in and not having to remove the fancy reception area, remove walls, partitions, shelving and else. This would have been a win-win for both parties. But for some reason the landlord said no. And despite attempts to persuade them, they were adamant. The tenant said okay and ripped everything out, including tens of thousands of aircon, leaving the landlord with an empty shell again, which proved harder to rent out and attracted lower rent. The building was empty for quite a while. About 4 years later, I worked there again when another company had leased it. The building was horribly hot in summer because of the lack of air condition, and the reception looked cheap and nasty, nowhere near as nice as it had been. The offices were carpeted, but obviously the cheapest stuff was fitted. I told my new employer that the building had been much nicer and with air condition, and they were stunned that the stupid landlord had wasted the opportunity. The next story is called Insurance Compliance. This was a few years ago, during my senior year in college. I was living in a converted house that had 5 apartments in it. There was a small parking lot and the spaces were tight. I had a car and my 2 roommates didn't, but this was never a problem, cause we'd usually go to the store together, could walk to campus and they'd rarely ask for rides anywhere. Well, one day my one roommate asked for a quick ride to the park, so she could get a water sample from the lake for her chemistry class. No big deal, as it would take less than 10 minutes. We go out to my car and I'm pulling out when I accidentally scrape against the car next to me. These spaces were really tight and we were parked too closely together. It was honestly barely noticeable and mostly on the passenger door. I figure I'll run this quick errand and then try to figure out which apartment the driver lives in. They probably won't even notice before I get back. 10 minutes later my roommate and I are back and surprisingly there's a girl in the parking lot. I quickly realized that she is the owner of the car. I explain what happened and say we can figure it out. She says she wants to talk to her parents first and I say I'll do the same since I'm on their insurance. We both know where the other lives anyway. My dad's advice was the deductible for the car is $500, so I'd have to pay anything less than that anyway. I should see if the owner wants to avoid insurance to prevent rates going up. I tell her this and she says she'll get back to me with some estimates. Later she hands me a few estimates that vary greatly in price and worked on. 1 or 2 were well over $500 and had what was clearly unnecessary work. I forgot the details, but it was something about replacing the hubcaps and tires altogether when there was nothing noticeable about that. I contact the places myself to see what they say and get the most telling response from the place with the most affordable estimate. This was a kind woman from a clearly family shop versus the others which were bigger places and dealerships. The woman tells me that the car didn't actually need that much done, as I assumed, and the owner was insisting on extra work to the tires. Her estimate was low because she only wrote it up for what needed to be done, not the unnecessary work the woman asked for. I go back to the other student and tell her that I'd cover the cost of the lowest estimate one from the mom and pop shop. She says she didn't like that estimate and wanted to go with the pricier one from the big expensive dealership with a lot of cosmetic work in the estimate. She says some BS about not trusting the family shop and how they didn't seem reliable when I could tell they were kind and genuine when I visited them. She started insulting their shop too. She says if I refuse to pay, then she's going to go through the insurance and I'd better be prepared to pay. Well, now it's time for my malicious compliance. I decided to call my insurance preemptively to get ahead of this and let them know this woman might be contacting them with a claim. I wanted to give my side first. when I followed up with them a while later about paying the deductible, I found out she never even filed a claim or contacted insurance at all. So my rate didn't go up whatsoever, and I didn't have to pay a penny. What do you think about the video so far? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, please press the like button, it really helps the channel to grow. And now let's go to the next story. The third story is called Restaurant Compliance. My dad was a paratrooper during the Vietnam War. One day he gets some much needed downtime and he decides to check out a restaurant. As he's looking at the menu, he sees that they have raw oysters as an appetizer. In my opinion, oysters are gross, but growing up outside of New Orleans, Dad was beside himself. When the waiter comes to see him, this happens. "Hey man, can I get a dozen raw oysters for an appetizer?" "I'm so sorry sir, but you cannot eat a dozen raw oysters." Now, Dad was a cool dude, but he could lose his patience when he had to repeat himself. "Listen Paul, I'm from Louisiana. Just bring me a dozen raw oysters." "But sir." "Bring me a dozen raw oysters." "Okay." A few minutes later, the waiter comes out, pushing a double-decker cart with 12 oysters the size of frisbees. If you don't know, most oysters fit in the palm of your hand, so these were like 3 times the size of normal oysters. The waiter gives my dad a smirk, like here you go. Dad, being the absolute madman that he was, then proceeds to painfully eat all 12 raw oysters. He couldn't let the waiter win after all. The waiter comes out of the bag and sees that Dad actually finished them and is now stuffed to the gills. He looks at Dad and says with a big serviceman smile, "Would you like to order now, sir?" They both had a good laugh about this. The last story is called Student Compliance. This happened many years ago when I was in high school. I was in IB history class during my sophomore year. We get assigned pages upon pages of reading and notes for homework every night, and the notes are the most tedious BS. There's a really specific format we have to use. It involves splitting the page in half and then writing a fact from the text on one side. Then a couple of sentences of analysis of the fact on the other, and 2 to 3 sentences summarizing everything you've written at the bottom of the page. We also had quotas for how many pages of notes we had to do. They took forever. There often weren't actually enough key facts to analyze, and everyone messed around with them to hit their page count. They were also the first thing on the shopping block if we had too much homework, which we always did. And we would get graded down for not hitting quota, not following format, or poor quality content. Everyone hated them with a passion, especially me. Our teacher got sick of people messing with their notes or just not turning them in at all, which happened more often than not. So she announced at the beginning of the new term that anyone who missed a notes assignment would get an incomplete instead of a 0. So it wouldn't affect your grade. And if you did well on the final, any missing assignments would be waived. But if we didn't do well, they would become 0s and our grade would drop. She intended this to just be temporary grace for the good students, so they could afford to miss an assignment here and there and not ruin their GPA. But she was not prepared for the unintended consequences I was about to inflict. This announcement was absolute music to my ears. You see, not only were our notes busy work, they were pointless busy work. All the material from the reading would be covered on the PowerPoint in class the next day. So I would always just pay attention and take notes in class and only do some of my homework. But then ace the final because I had still learned the material, and because homework was only 35% of the overall grade, I'd still usually scrape a B into the class, which was fine by me. So naturally, when I hear we don't have to do notes, I accept that challenge. I decided right then and there that I would be doing no history homework for the entire term. About halfway through the term, my teacher comes up to me and the convo goes something like this. The teacher was only 24 and very immature. I noticed you haven't turned in any notes at all yet this term. I'm like kinda concerned about that. Well, you said if we did well on the final we would get our notes waived. Well, I mean, yeah, but if you don't do well, you're going to lose a huge chunk of your grade. Okay, and? I mean, you should really turn in some notes so that doesn't happen. It's okay, I'm good. Are you seriously planning on like just not doing any notes all term? Yep. They will be waived anyway when I do well on the final. Okay, well, don't blame me when your grades goes down. Yeah. Can I get back to work now? I proceeded to stick to my word and not do any notes assignment all term. Final comes around and it's our typical format. 2 hours to write 2 essays chosen from 3 prompts. I picked the 2 easiest for me and got writing. I finished the first one and realized it only filled 1 piece of notebook paper front and back, single-spaced. But I had said everything I needed to fulfill the prompt. Cool, on to the next one. I don't remember the topic, but it too was clear and concise, taking up only a sheet and a half. I was the first one done with it and walked up to turn it in. The teacher thought I had a question. I informed her I was done. Her eyebrows shot through the roof. She asked if I was sure. I said yes, left class and went and enjoyed my early lunch. It's next week and we get our graded finals back. She stiffly marches up to my desk and slams my test papers down. The longer essay got a 98. The page-long one got 100. She muttered something sarcastic about, well, I guess that little gamble paid off for you, huh? Yep, just like I said it would. She was fuming as she walked away. She had been so hoping to catch me, but as it was, I ended up getting the highest score in the class. She had to waive every single notes assignment and I ended up with an A for the term. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, comment and subscribe for more content. Have a great day and stay safe. Bye bye.